I always believed I was the one keeping the peace. Apparently, everyone else believed I was just too weak to speak up. I didn't realize those two things could look the same from the outside. For years, I thought silence was maturity, patience, self control, the ability to absorb tension so other people didn't have to. But the day something happened that I couldn't quietly absorb anymore, I discovered something uncomfortable. No one had actually asked me to carry that weight. And when I finally admitted that it was heavy, people didn't see sacrifice. They saw overreaction. When I married into my husband's family, I understood something very quickly. They were not a confrontational family, at least not directly. Nobody shouted, nobody had dramatic arguments, but tension existed in quieter ways. Sharp jokes, long silences, small comments that could mean different things depending on how you heard them. My mother-in-law once told me something during my first year of marriage. She said it very casually while we were washing dishes together. In this house, we don't like drama. I remember nodding. At the time, I thought it was advice. Now, I think it was more like a warning. I took that sentence seriously, maybe too seriously. I started adjusting myself around it. If someone made a comment that felt slightly disrespectful, I ignored it. If my sister-in-law made jokes about how new wives try too hard, I laughed along. If plans changed suddenly and no one told me until the last minute, I told myself it wasn't intentional. I didn't want to be the difficult daughter-in-law. I didn't want anyone thinking my presence had complicated their family dynamic. So I focused on something simple. Peace. Not loud peace, quiet peace. The kind that comes from swallowing small discomforts before they become bigger ones. At the time, it felt like maturity. I thought I was doing what adults do, managing emotions, keeping harmony. Not every comment deserves a reaction. Not every moment requires correction. That's what I told myself. And for a long time, it seemed to work. The strange thing about quiet families is that conflict doesn't disappear. It just changes shape. Over time, I started noticing small things. At first, they felt harmless. My sister-in-law would sometimes refer to me as the peaceful one, not as a compliment exactly, more like an observation. "You're too calm," she once said during dinner. "Nothing seems to bother you." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But something about the tone made it feel slightly different. Like they weren't praising calmness, they were studying it. Later, my brother-in-law made a similar comment. "You're very composed." He said it while watching me clear plates after someone had made a slightly rude joke about my cooking. "You don't react to anything." I smiled and said something light. "Well, not everything needs a reaction." Everyone nodded like that made sense. But I remember my sister-in-law smirking slightly. That expression stayed with me longer than the conversation because it didn't look like agreement. It looked more like skepticism. At the time, I ignored it. Yeah, as usual. People interpret personalities differently. Some families are more expressive, some are quieter. That's normal. Still, the small comments continued. "You're too patient. You're very forgiving. You don't take things personally." They sounded positive, but they never quite felt like compliments. Eventually, something shifted in how they treated me. I didn't notice it immediately, but looking back, it was gradual. If plans changed and nobody informed me until the last minute, the explanation was always the same. Oh, you're easygoing, you won't mind. If someone forgot something important that involved me, they laughed it off. You're not the type to get upset. Even when decisions were made without including me. If someone forgot something important that involved me, they laughed it off. Someone would say, you're not the type to get upset. Leave it. I know you. Even when decisions were made without including me, the reasoning was similar. You're flexible. At first, I accepted these explanations. It felt good to be seen as adaptable. But slowly, I began noticing a pattern. My calmness wasn't just appreciated, it was expected. People started assuming I would absolve inconveniences without complaint. And once that expectation exists, something strange happens. Your patience stops looking like kindness, it starts looking like permission. One afternoon, I overheard something I don't think I was meant to hear. My sister in law and mother in law were talking in the kitchen. I had just come home and paused near the hallway when I heard my name. I didn't intend to listen, but once your name is mentioned, it's difficult to walk away. My sister in law said quietly, "She's too perfect." My mother in law replied, "She just knows how to behave." Then my sister in law laughed. Or maybe she's just pretending. There was a pause. Then she added something that confused me. Sometimes people act calm because they want everyone to think they are better than everyone else. That sentence landed strangely. Better. Better. I had never once thought of myself that way. Better. If anything, I spent most of my time trying not to disturb anyone. I walked into the kitchen a few seconds later. They both smiled normally. No tension, no awkwardness, which made the conversation feel even more unreal. But the sentence stayed with me. Sometimes people act calm because they want everyone to think they are better than everyone else. That was the first time I wondered if my silence was being interpreted differently than I intended. The moments that changed everything happened on a family holiday. It was a birthday gathering for my father-in-law. The house was full, people moving between rooms, music playing softly, everyone talking at once. At some point during dinner, a conversation started about children. My mother-in-law asked casually, "So when are you two planning to start?" She meant my husband and I. I smiled politely. "We are still figuring things out." Then she laughed slightly. "You have been figuring things out for 3 years now." Everyone chuckled. It wasn't the first time the topic had come up. Usually, I let those moments pass. But that evening, she continued, "Maybe you are just too busy being the perfect daughter-in-law." More laughter. Then she added something that changed the tone. "Some women hide behind calmness because they're afraid of real responsibility." The table grew quieter. Not completely silent, but quieter. I felt my chest tighten slightly. Still, I responded gently. "I don't think that's fair." My tone wasn't even angry, just honest. But something about that response triggered a reaction. My sister-in-law rolled her eyes. "Oh, relax, it's a joke." My brother-in-law added casually, "You take things too seriously." My mother-in-law said something that confused me more than anything else. You've always been sensitive." Sensitive? That word caught me off guard. I had spent years making sure I wasn't seen that way. After dinner, something happened that I still struggle to explain calmly. While clearing the table, my sister-in-law said something quietly, not loud enough for everyone to hear, just me. She said, "You know what your problem is?" I looked at her. "You pretend to be above everything," she added. I asked softly, "What do you mean?" Then she shrugged. "Hmm, you act like you're the peaceful one, like everyone else is immature." That sentence felt like a mirror reflecting something I had never intended to show. I tried to respond carefully. I've never thought that, I said. She laughed. Well, that's how it looks. I stood there holding two plates, unsure what to say. Then she added something that crossed a line I hadn't realized existed until that moment. Honestly, sometimes you act like you're the only decent person in this house. And then something inside me cracked. It was not loud because I realized something painful. All the patience I thought I was offering was being interpreted as judgment. For the first time since joining that family, I stopped trying to smooth the moment. I said calmly, I've spent years trying to avoid conflict with you. The room was quiet enough that a few people looked over. Then she shrugged again. That's your choice, so I said, no, it was my responsibility. Then she laughed softly and then she said, no one asked you to do that. That sentence was the one that stayed with me. No one asked you to do that. I looked around the room. People were watching. Now, more like waiting. And that was when I said something I had never said before. I thought protecting the peace mattered, I said. And then my brother-in-law responded casually. You are overthinking things. Then my mother-in-law added gently. You always take things too deeply. And suddenly I understood something. The invisible weight I had been carrying for years only existed in my mind. Since that day, I have replayed the situation many times. Was my silence actually kindness, or was it something else? Did I protect the peace, or did I quietly judge everyone who didn't behave the same way? Did my patience make people feel comfortable, or did it make them feel observed? Maybe calmness it isn't actually always neutral. Maybe sometimes it looks like distance, or superiority, or quiet disapproval. That possibility still bothers me because it was never my intention. But intentions don't always control how people interpret behavior. I don't think I was wrong to value peace, but I also don't think I understood the cost of it. When you absorb tension for too long, people stop noticing you're doing it. They assume that's just who you are. The person who never reacts, the person who doesn't mind, the person who will adjust. And maybe after a while, that starts to feel less like maturity and more like passivity or worse, moral superiority, even if you never meant it that way. These days, I still try to be calm, but I no longer try to carry everyone else's emotions. Not because I'm angry, just because I finally understand something. Peace that only one person maintains isn't really peace. It's just quiet pressure. And sometimes I still wonder about that night, about the moments they said I was overreacting. Maybe they were right. Maybe I had spent so many years pretending nothing bothered me that the first time something did, it looked dramatic. Or maybe something else is true. Maybe people get comfortable when someone quietly absorbs everything. And when that person finally says the weight is heavy, it feels inconvenient. I'm still not sure which one it is. I only know this. For years, I thought I was protecting the peace. Now I'm not even sure anyone else noticed there was something to protect. Hello guys, how are you doing? And hope your life is okay. I am so grateful if you stay to the end of this video. And so, what did you learn from this? Do you think most daughter-in-laws do this? Do you think she was right to do this? Do you think the husband's family is at fault? What would you do in this kind of situation? Would you even start what she started? And then even if you do, when you find out that it was now more like an expectation than you being kind. Would you continue? How would you confront your husband? Do you think it is fault for not speaking up for you? I really want you to drop your 2 cents in the comments, and let's see what you think about this story. And I hope you do come back next time. And before you go, please do well to like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell so that when we post, you will be the first to see it. Please do drop that comment, and I really love you guys. See you in the next story. Bye.